Okay, and I'm going to give it over to Michelle. You're muted.
Great, thank you, Amber. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for our protocol training. And this is just the kind of first of probably many trainings and conversations that we'll have with you, but we just wanted to touch base and provide an overview of the study. And like Amber said, feel free to interrupt as we go or put it in the chat. So for UNC, the PI along with myself is Kim Bogus in the Department of OBGYN and Maternal Fetal Medicine. And also Lee Stoner is a co-investigator with us, and he is the director of the cardiometabolic lab, where we have the setup to do the arterial stiffness measurements in his lab, along with the wonderful research assistants and students that we have. So our rationale for MIDAS is that we know that women and race ethnic minority groups have a high burden of cardiovascular disease, but they are traditionally underrepresented in research. It is getting better, but it's still, we're not 100% there. And what we're interested in is looking at women's specific factors for cardiovascular disease. So we are, for this study, focusing on pregnancy. We know that pregnancy is a stress test for cardiovascular disease. Studies have shown that pregnancy complications increase the risk of later life cardiovascular disease and also increase the risk for traditional cardiovascular disease risk factors such as hypertension and diabetes. And not only does pregnancy affect the health of women, it also affects the offspring. However, the effects on offspring health are not well known, and that's why for this study we're including both women and their infants. And we want to look at cardiovascular disease at this time point because we know that prenatal care is a access point for many women in the US. So it's a novel opportunity to screen for cardiovascular disease. And in MIDAS, we are using arterial stiffness as a measure of cardiovascular risk. And the main function of the arteries is to provide a constant blood flow to the body. And you can see this picture on the left, the upper picture, that when the heart is contracting and emptying, the blood pressure, the blood vessels, the arteries widen to absorb some of that blood flow, so that when the heart is relaxing and filling, shown on the bottom, that the arteries contract and push that blood out. So that supplies a constant blood flow throughout the body. Another function of the arteries is to dampen that pulsatile flow so that when it reaches the end organs, that there's really no pulsatile energy reaching end organs since they are sensitive to that pulse pressure. So as you can see, arterial stiffness is a measure of arterial wall flexibility. And the consequences of higher arterial stiffness is that the greater pulsatile pressure that I mentioned reaches the end organs such as the brain, heart, and kidneys and can cause damage. And it, over time, arterial stiffness predicts cardiovascular disease morbidity and mortality. So it is useful for cardiovascular disease screening in early adulthood and childhood. And identifying cardiovascular disease early is a key to cardiovascular disease prevention. So the objective is the MIDAS study is to estimate cardiovascular disease risk via arterial stiffness, or the device that we're using measures pulse wave velocity, or PWV. And this will be in healthy and medically complicated pregnant women and their infants. The graph on the right shows a picture of the study time points starting in utero at 34 to 40 weeks gestation, all the way up to post-pregnancy 12 months. And we're measuring arterial stiffness at those time points, 34 to 40 weeks gestation, at delivery, 6 months and 12 months. For AIM-1, we are interested in measuring pulse wave velocity or arterial stiffness during and after pregnancy. And on the graph on the right, you can see in utero, so in gestation will measure arterial stiffness. And then looking forward on the top box that says mother, we're interested in the in utero health and factors that increase pulse wave velocity post-pregnancy. AIM-2, we are measuring infant-child pulse wave velocity following healthy and complicated pregnancies. And that's on the picture on the right, you can see the neonate child. So we're interested in the in utero factors that are associated with post-pregnancy neonate or child pulse wave velocity. And the AIM-3 is to identify maternal and infant modifiable risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease risk, again, measured by pulse wave velocity. And that's at the bottom. You can see that we are going to measure some non-modifiable and modifiable factors that affect arterial stiffness from in utero to 12 months. And this is a brief overview, again, of the study design. It's an observational study of pregnant women in their third trimester to 1 year postpartum and their infants. And our total sample size is 840 mother-infant dyads, and that comes out to be around 280 at each site. And our sites are UNC, University of Alabama, and Columbia University. On the picture on the right, you can see kind of the flow of what we're the study design at 34 to 40 weeks gestation. And Amber will go into these details, but this is a quick, brief overview. At gestation, there'll be a chart abstract of maternal demographic and medical data, measure arterial stiffness, collect serum biomarkers and body fat mass by skin fold calipers. We'll collect the microbiome and assess lifestyle, diet, and exercise with some questionnaires. Then within 72 hours of delivery, we're also going to measure again maternal carotid femoral pulse wave velocity, which is our measure of arterial stiffness, collect umbilical cord blood and placental samples for future studies, and also measure infant arterial stiffness. And then at the 6 and 12 months postpartum time points, we'll again measure arterial stiffness in the mother and the infant or the child. We'll collect the maternal microbiome and also assess lifestyle and diet using the same questionnaires.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions about that? Following it so far? This is going to be really interesting. I'm super excited. No questions? Okay. I'm going to jump back into the study procedures and we're going to get a little bit more in depth. As Michelle said, we're going to do those anthropometrics, skin fold, height and weight, pulse wave velocity on mom and newborn. There's questionnaires, there's sample collection, and there's quite a bit of data abstraction. So hold on to your butts. All right, so our visit time points. We've got the visit 1 is that prenatal visit, 34 to 40 weeks before they deliver. And then an immediate postpartum visit, which we're trying to keep very short. So there's only a few study procedures that are going to happen at that time so that we don't burden moms too much. And then at 6 and at 12 months ago. Again, I think the visit 1 is going to be kind of critical to get participants in. I mean, as you guys know, some high-risk populations tend to deliver quite early. So we won't have as big of a window if somebody's delivering at 37 weeks to try to see them for that visit. Our study groups are going to be low risk, healthy pregnancies, and then high risk pregnancies. We were sort of calling them cases and controls just because low risk, healthy pregnancies was a mouthful. But again, that primary outcome is a change in arterial stiffness measured by pulse wave velocity over time. Sorry for the little bit of a busy slide, but for the inclusion criteria, we're going to approach women who are 18 to 45 years old, singleton pregnancy, and they have to meet at least one of the criteria. So 1 is like a healthy pregnancy. They don't have any significant comorbidities. And then the cases or the like complicated pregnancies can either have any type of hypertension, any type of diabetes, or fetal growth restriction. And there is some additional criteria for the types of hypertension. They either have to be on medical treatment or have certain blood pressures, but it can be chronic hypertension, gestational preeclampsia. Same with the diabetes. It can be any type of diabetes as long as it's requiring medical treatment, because I mean, we wouldn't want to put women that have gestational diabetes that's like diet controlled in this group, and the fetal growth restriction. We're going to exclude anybody that has multiple pregnancies, which is pretty common. Any suspected or known fetal anomalies, The morbid obesity is going to be an interesting one. We want to exclude anybody with a pre-pregnancy BMI of greater than or equal to 40. And that's just because some of the measurements that we're doing are not as validated on larger women. And also any other known medical contraindications to arterial stiffness, which I think, Michelle, is just the aortic revascularization is the only one that there is.
Yep. Yeah, at this age.
Okay. I don't really know what that is, but if you see it in a chart, you can ask. And also participation in another study that might affect our primary outcome, which we can discuss. Any of these will probably have an ongoing list of studies that are going on at all of our sites. And any other significant chronic or medical psychiatric illness. And just like any other studies, if you're confused about whether or not to enroll somebody, you can always contact us and we can take it on like a case-by-case basis. Okay. Our database for the study is a REDCap database, which was made by the lovely folks at UAB for us. We have designed the study to be mainly direct data capture. So there are not very many paper forms. There's a few that we have found that people just really tend to like to have paper to write on for them. But for the most part, it will be entered directly into the database from the medical chart or with the participant. The pulse wave velocity forms I just want to mention will be, very important to be doing real-time electronic data capture because they're going to make calculations for you. And if you don't want to do math, like I don't, then you should use those. We'll have reports generated by UAB, and they'll also be the one to provide you access to the databases, which I've included at the end of the slideshow how to get access to everything. So don't worry, that will be coming up. And I also did something, or we did something a little different for this project. We have two separate MIDAS databases that are in REDCap. So the first one is just the participant level things that you're used to using REDCap for. If you have any experience using REDCap, where you would put study visit information, screening, that kind of stuff. The site-wide one is for everything that goes across the whole site. So that would be like shipping logs and training and things like that for the coordinators. So it doesn't have participant data. And I'll walk anybody through that wants some additional REDCap training. That would be fine. We're also going to use a OneDrive link for a lot of our documents, so we can share documents with everybody. Okay, I'm just going to briefly go into the study IDs because these, we want to make sure we know our site codes. So UNC is NC, UA is UAB, and CU is Columbia. They might look familiar to you from some other studies. Just kind of explains they're going to have 4-number study ID and include that dash in there when you write them, please. This is a screenshot of the participant level database. So you would enter the study ID for like a new record, and then you would enter participant data in here. And as you can see, it's a longitudinal design. So you would see every form you would need to complete for visit 1. Hopefully that makes it easier for people to kind of know what they need to do at the visit with that person. Again, I'm happy to do any extra REDCap training for anybody who wants a little bit more in depth. There's also a lot of details in the MOO about that. For the site-wide database, this is a screenshot of that. So you would enter under your site ID. And then like here, I have the site activation done for UNC. So that's where you would put in kind of some details about your site. And then for each staff member you want to get trained, you would start a new form. And here's a little screenshot of it here in the right corner. It just kind of goes through a checklist of everything you have to do for your training. And you can watch the links to the videos right there, and then you can just document underneath them that you've completed them. Hopefully it just makes it easier on everybody to have everything in one place like that. Okay. Study procedures. So again, we're going to do the skin fold anthropometrics. We have multiple sites for mom and for baby. So triceps, subscap, suprailiac, thigh, and flank. You will need those Lang skin fold calipers that we'll provide to your site if you don't already have some. There's very detailed instructional videos for how to do this. Again, in that training document I just showed you in the site-wide red cap made by our lovely Malia Blue. And for certification, what we're going to do is just have people practice. This will require a victim from your site to be practiced on. And you can submit those practice sheets through the site-wide red cap. And we're just going to have Malia review them and make sure that we're getting similar measurements. So like 2 people from your site ideally would get trained and they would practice on the same person, but blinded, if that makes sense. And maybe you could buy that person coffee after they agree to do that. So here's just a little bit of a breakdown of the measurements. So for mom, they get them at every visit, 1 to 4. Arm circumference, tricep, subscap, suprailiac thigh, and they'll do weight. We'll get height from their chart. Newborn will get visits 2 to 4 because they're not alive at the prenatal visit. They are, but they're not around for us to measure. And we'll do tricep, subscap, and flank for them. These measurements are similar to ones we've done for other studies, and I've made some really nice cheat sheets to help us get through them. I laminated a lot. I had fun with the laminator, so hopefully you guys will enjoy those. Okay, the pulse wave velocity, again, is that measurement of arterial stiffness, and that will be another measurement we'll be doing at those visits that Michelle was talking about. We're using the Vicorder device, which it looks a little crazy there with all the wires coming out of it. It's a little intimidating when you look at it, but it's really not that bad once you get some practice with it. And we'll be sending those to your sites if we haven't already. Lee Stoner has made very beautiful detailed instructional videos, again, that are on that site-wide training. And for certification, you'll schedule kind of a call with him for some training, and he will kind of okay you to go forward and perform these measurements. But he will definitely be reviewing our first few, and then every once in a while, just to make sure that we're getting consistent measurements. And that detail is explained in the manuals and in the videos. So I'm not going to get into how to do these measurements right now. But I did want to just say, you know, I don't know why that picture is so blurry, but it's very much painless to have these measurements done. You basically take a few measurements, and it's kind of similar to having a blood pressure done. There's a little collar that just has a small bladder piece that inflates. Some participants might have a little bit of discomfort with it, but it's not too bad, I don't think. Again, you're going to want to use the pulse wave velocity red cap form. And I just want to mention that the Vicorder data won't be stored in the red cap database. It will be uploaded to that shared OneDrive monthly. When you save it on the laptop, it sort of saves in its own folder. And this is how we're just going to make sure we upload it monthly, because that's our primary outcome. So we want to make sure that we're collecting that data and that we're saving it. Okay, questionnaires. So we have a lot of questionnaire surveys for the study, which is nice. We'll get a lot of data. They're all electronic. They're all built into RedCap. Topics go over demographics, diet, mood, sleep, behavior of newborns, neighborhood walkability, all kinds of things, basically anything Michelle could think of that might affect your cardiovascular health and other things that got added. I'm just going to go over a few of the surveys. So a few of the surveys are administered in person with the participant, and they're a little bit weird. And then there's a few of them that are sent home with the participant and that they can complete kind of on their own time. So survey 1 is demographics, and that is just administered by the coordinator. Survey 2 is also administered, at least the first part, by the coordinator. And then survey 3, the participant would complete in person at the visit. So you will kind of need to have like a laptop or an iPad of some sort for the participant to do some of these surveys while they're there at their visit. So for survey 1, you would go into their RedCap and you would open up their survey and you would just, ask it to them. Survey 2, I wanted to point out because it's a little bit different than some of the other ones. It is a health literacy test, I guess. And again, I have these laminated sheets that will have different words on it. So the coordinator or whoever's doing the visit would hand the participant these words, and then you'll mark off, ask them to say the words out loud and then mark off if they're pronouncing it correctly. That's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, I just wanted to mention it out. The first two, fat and flu, are not scored. I guess they think people know how to say those. And then survey 3 has an image that goes with it that is, it appears in the survey, but it's kind of small. So it's asking about sleep. It also has a military time conversion on the back in big letters for participants, because the survey asked them to put things in military time, and we didn't want to change it since it was validated that way, but we wanted to make it easy on the participants. And then the other surveys, so 4 through 9, this is only showing for visit 1, but they are sent home with the participant, and all of the ones that are sent home have a -H at the end of it, just to kind of help you know which ones don't need to be completed in person at that visit. Again, there's a lot more detail on this in the MOOC, and I'm happy to do any additional training. But the way that you want to send those surveys home is to open the survey and copy the link into an email for them. We did try to do some sending surveys through the composed survey invitation, but it was, some people were getting it in their junk mail. So at least if you send it through your email, the participant won't be hunting everywhere for it, which we want to make it as easy on them to complete the surveys as possible. I'll also mention that we're doing a link for each of the surveys so that moms don't have to, so they can do a little bit at a time if they want to. The amount of time the survey takes, it displays on there, but that can also be in the email so that they're not trying to go back to a previous survey and stop in the middle of it. And it's up to you how you want to pay your participants, but we at UNC are planning to pay an additional amount for the completion of the surveys. So we're sort of withholding part of the payment until they do them, just as an additional incentive, because we all know it can be difficult to get people to complete their surveys. Okay, any questions yet?
I just want to interject that we also discussed about sending surveys before their visit. So when you send them a reminder email, we're thinking about putting the links in there so that they could complete it before they even come to the visit. So that could be another opportunity to give them more time to complete those surveys.
Definitely. So like up to a week before, when you send a reminder email about a study visit, you can put those in there. And then they have up to a week after the study visit to complete the surveys. They have a little bit of a window. Okay. Other study procedures, of course, we're doing some specimen collection and some data entry, because what study doesn't have that? We're going to get maternal blood and newborn blood. So the maternal will be whole blood and serum at visits 1, 3, and 4. So we're not getting blood at that immediate postpartum visit, again, to try to reduce, the burden on mom during that visit. And for babies, we will get, they do want a venipuncture, and that will be at 3 and at 4, at visit 3 and 4. At UNC, we haven't done newborn venipunctures before, or child venipunctures. We have decided to use this topical numbing cream called Imela cream, just to make it less painful on the babies. And we're taking a very small amount of blood from babies too, but we didn't want to try to do it with a heel stick. So if anybody would like further information on doing that at their site, they can contact Karen, because she set ours up for us. And you can ask me too, but she would know better than I do. We are going to get delivery samples, cord blood and placenta. And there's, again, details for how to do all of this in the MOOC. If you have any questions, I'm happy to walk through this with you. Most of us have collected some of these before at our sites.
Question.
Sure.
How time sensitive is the cord blood collection?
It's pretty time sensitive for the actual collection because it does tend to clot like within 10 minutes. But what we do is we have the delivering nurse or whoever has time just draw it for us, and then it can be processed, you know, within a day or so.
Okay. And it's not primary outcome contingent, right? Like if we miss it, if the nurse doesn't collect it, it's just missed, right?
That is correct. And we all know it can be difficult to collect cord blood, but since there is a lot of it and it's hard to get, you know, blood that might have baby information, we're going to try. So,
Okay.
but that's a great question. And okay, so microbiome, we're also getting. Microbiome is so hot right now. We've got it from mom, hopefully at visit 1, 3, and 4, and from newborn, which can either be self-collected, well, not the newborn, the mom collecting that one, or from a diaper as well. And there's detailed instructions for how they can collect those. Those are really easy to process. They basically just go back in their tube and get put in the freezer. And we're also getting a urine sample, which will be at visit 1, 3, and 4, self-collected, clean catch. It's going to be used for kidney analysis information. This, I think, will be the easiest one to get because nobody tends to mind giving a urine sample. This is just from mom, too, by the way. Okay, so labeling is detailed extensively in the MOO because I made it up out of my head. So let me know if you have questions. But basically, we printed these cryo baby labels for all the sites that will have a sample ID number. It doesn't have to match up to the study ID number, but that first number will be the specimen ID. The second to last number will be the visit number, and it's indicated here in this V1 text at the bottom, so you'll be able to see that it's visit 1. And then the last number, it refers to like the type of specimen it is, so each specimen has a different number code that goes with it. But you'll be able to see that 1 is maternal serum because we sort of labeled that in the text too, just to make it easier on coordinators, because, you know, there's a lot of different labeling schemes. And then the very last number is just an aliquot number, which, you know, doesn't really need to be recorded anywhere. We'll know how many you're collecting, but it's just kind of to help you differentiate. Sample processing, there's a lot of cheat sheets I made for this. I love a cheat sheet, so you're going to be getting a lot of those. And they just get documented in the participants chart. And then for shipping, that is when you will go back into the site-wide database, because you can fill out the shipping logs, which would be like your box of all of your samples that are getting shipped. So you're just going to be sending your samples to UNC. They will be on dry ice, so make sure that you have appropriate training if you're going to be shipping with dry ice. It can be dangerous, and definitely notify us before you send things so that it's not sitting there. Most of you probably know how to do a reg binder, but there is a full list of the documents we would like you to have in the MOO. Most of our forms can be kept electronically. We just want you to put a note to file of where it's being stored. We are also going to use number memos as our official communication, so those will also need to be stored in the reg binder. So for protocol deviations, we do have a log for documenting those, but really it's based on what your site asks you to document. Again, this is, just per site protocol, so I don't think we have to report those to anybody. Ooh. How do I go back? Oops. Sorry. Okay. For AEs and SAEs, they can be documented in REDCap. we are really only collecting anything that is occurring, during the study visit or directly related to the study visit. Again, this is a low risk observational study. We don't need to be recording every little thing that doesn't have anything to do with the procedures that we're doing. If you have a question, of course, you can ask us, and there's more detailed of things that we might expect in the MOO. Okay, for your site to get activated, you basically just need to get access to that site-wide REDCap database. You'll complete, at least one person at your site, probably whoever the Karen is, will complete the site activation checklist, which just kind of goes over like the, stuff about your site, making sure that you have IRB approval and how you're going to recruit and plans for that kind of stuff. And then each coordinator that's going to be trained will do the coordinator checklist. And again, you don't have to train everybody in all procedures. If you have somebody that's just going to be doing sample collection, you can just have them train on the things that they need. But you do need to have one person at least trained on all of the different study procedures at your site. And also ask me and I will give you access to our OneDrive folder, which has the protocol and the MOO and the latest documents and everything so that you can get started. For database access, you're going to email Basharat at that email and CC these two folks here who are database people, Robin and Vicky. Please include your name, your site, your email, your phone number, and for most people, you're just going to have data entry access. If you think you need a higher level of access, just let me know. We can talk about that. Some UPIs might want some more special abilities. And then also just ask me if you would like OneDrive access. We have a MIDAS email for the study that can also be contacted if you have questions. Okay, here are our pets. These two are Michelle's cats, and that's my dog, Luna.
So cute. Oh, question. What trainings must the site PIs complete?
So the site PIs really don't have to do anything except for this protocol training, saying that they have, reviewed the protocol.
Thank you.
But that was a great question.
Amber, can I ask a couple things that I just jotted down? So just to make sure everybody understands, we're only doing English, right? So we don't have to worry about translating because we just couldn't translate all these questionnaires into different languages. So we're doing English only. It's also possible, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that we can recruit before 34 weeks. So we can start screening and talking to patients and getting them excited, but we can't get them, get their study visit done before 34 and 0. Is that correct?
Yes, and I meant to say that. Thank you, Karen. You don't miss a thing. Yes, I would definitely recommend as early. You don't want to go too early because you want them to have, made it to at least 30 weeks and had some of their diabetes screening and stuff. But after that point, I think it's really good to approach people and try to get them scheduled as soon as possible.
And then on your slide that you were showing for demographics and when you do certain visits, I couldn't see when the prenatal history was supposed to be done. It seems like that wasn't checked off and maybe I just missed that.
So that one, you know what, it's just not completed. So that is going to be done at the delivery visit, and only because you could start it earlier if you wanted to. It's mostly prenatal history from just things that were occurring in that pregnancy. But at the very end, there's stuff about like at their final study group determination, and we want to make sure they don't get diagnosed with anything prior to delivery. Like if they develop preeclampsia or something, say they were in the healthy group and you didn't know anything, then they come in and they're very sick, and then they could still be in the study, but then they would be moved into the high risk group. Does that make
Okay,
sense? That's kind of
yeah,
weird.
that clarified that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, get that. Don't go back and forth into these red cap logs if you don't have to. And so it does make more sense just to do all the prenatal history at the delivery visit, so you can just get your updated, complete history.
Just at that like one time point, there is quite a bit of delivery data abstraction too. So I don't know if sites maybe want to train somebody to do some of that. We record a lot of things, but a lot of it can be done remotely.
One other thing that you mentioned, you talked about the bicorder pressure being just like taking a blood pressure. And I know when I get my blood pressure taken in clinic, it goes way up to like 180 and then drifts down. This is not anything like that. So as you're telling your participants, don't tell them that the pressure around their neck is just like getting their blood pressure, because they won't be anxious to join the study. It goes up to what's the highest, but it's very, very soft. It doesn't like choke that patient.
No, it's a small bladder, like a small little piece that inflates in it. It's not like the whole collar inflates.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Sometimes they call it a necklace, or just something that's around the neck, but it doesn't inflate totally. It's just like Amber said, a little like 1-inch bladder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it doesn't go as high as a blood pressure measurement.
No.
Yeah, that's just one of those things. We do want to recruit well. And then the only other thing on the shipping, shipping should be to us Monday through Wednesday. We don't want to get to any holiday times or weekends or anything like that in case there's any delay. But that's the only other thing. And other than that, I think Amber has covered a lot of what we all need to know. She mentioned the MOO a bunch, and there is so much data in the MOO. We don't want to go through it and drive y'all crazy going through line by line, but we're hoping that it's so thorough that it will really help you to do this trial easily and comfortably.
And I would just like to say too, most of you know me. If you don't know me, hello, I'm very friendly. You can call me, you can email me whenever you want. If you just have a quick question, it can be so much easier just to pick up the phone instead of make yourself frustrated looking for something. I never mind that or helping out. So even if you're with a participant and you're like, this isn't working and you need help troubleshooting something, I might regret saying this, but definitely I can be your point of contact. And if you just don't even know who to contact for something, you can reach out to me, and I'll be the one behind that MIDAS study admin email. So you can also email that, but it's just me. So if you want to email me too, it's fine.
So as far as the study launch, we have our IRB approved at UNC. We're waiting for the local context information. As soon as we get that from UAB and Columbia, then we'll be ready to submit that to our IRB, and then our IRB contacts, our Reliance group contacts your IRB, and hopefully that will go quickly and smoothly, and et cetera. And then did you want to mention anything, Amber, about capitation and how to get that done? Because this is a capitated study and we want to try to make sure to stay up to date with getting you all paid for all your effort.
What did you want me to say about that?
Well, then let me just talk.
Make sure you get paid for your effort.
That's right. So it's going to be very similar to you sites who have done CSOAP and CHAP and other studies using UAB. They basically capitate based on data that has been entered into the database, and then they'll come up. And I'm not sure whether Jeff has decided to do quarterly or monthly reports, but they will give you a list of all the completed points to get capitation, and then you'll send that to us. And we're still waiting to hear exactly what address to send it to, but it'll be in the MOO. to get yourself reimbursed for this. So we'll try to make it as streamlined as possible, and we will get with Jeff and ask him how often he wants to do these reports. But I just wanted you to know that we know that that's a concerning factor, and we want to make sure that we would let you know that we're on it.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Ashley. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to walk back from clinic and got caught in the hospital. Question about enrollment. I know we've got 280 that we're trying to enroll at each site, and we've got that 12-month follow-up visit. Do we have an estimated number to try and recruit per month, and when do we need to finish recruitment by?
You know, Ashley, that's a great question. I had it figured out, but I don't know if I have the numbers in front of me. Michelle, do you know?
Not offhand, but I assume we'll probably need a no-cost extension since we're kind of, delayed it. Well, we got a year cut in our timeline, so that didn't help. But I can look back. I created a schematic that I can send around about the estimated number that we would need per month, and it seems like we should be fine. And we could tailor that once we get going and seeing, how much it is. So, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like I remember it being about 8 a month, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was more than that.
And we do want to kind of divide up, for the 280, we want 140 controls and 140 cases. And we will probably readjust to that if for some reason UNC has a lot more cases than controls and Columbia has a lot more controls. I think we're going to try to keep it even, but we might have to do some last minute finagling, but that won't be till toward the end of the study.
Awesome. And then, sorry,
I just see Rachel's question. We did get our notice of award for this next year. So that's probably why you only see the first year. So we do have the second year notice of award. So that should be rolling out to all the sites. But we have automatic carryover. So anything that hasn't been used in the first year automatically carries over to the second. We do have the second year notice of award that should be getting to you soon.
that's wonderful. Good to know. It's money.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that that's everything. If nobody else has any other questions.
Do you want to mention that you're about the supplies and things that we're shipping to the sites?
Michelle, did you send some things?
Not yet. I was going to mention, I'll probably send the pulse wave velocity or arterial stiffness device probably next week or the week after. I'm just waiting on 2 items to put into that package, but it will come in a big box. What we thought would be easy to transfer and move all the equipment is to use a carry-on suitcase. So hopefully I can put everything in the carry-on suitcase and ship that because it came in a nice box. So you shall get something soon, and I'll email the sites before with the tracking number and everything, just so that you can know where it is and when it's shipped.
Yeah, because that one
As
is.
far as the calipers, you all should have some left over from MomPod. So we're not going to be sending you any more. I'm going to request some of those calipers come back from some of the other sites that are not going to be doing this study. So we will have some extra if you find that you need one in your hospital for the delivery measurements, and we can send you a second one. That would be no problem. We're going to also send a nice wedge for you to tilt your patients on, and so we'll be ordering that at the same time, right? And Amber, you already ordered those, right?
They should be coming. There's a few other things, a few other measurement tools that if you get in the mail, I told them to put MIDAS study on everything. So yes, but we're getting 2 wedges, so you don't have to walk through the hospital or wherever you're going with a giant wedge.
And
Right.
then I couldn't remember, I feel like this came up at one point in time, but are we getting 2 pulse wave velocity machines or just one?
Oh, do you want to go ahead, Michelle?
Yeah, just the one. We're hoping that might work out fine. And we have the suitcase where you can transfer it to different areas if you need.
Yeah, apparently they're quite expensive. So just one for now.
But
Okay.
let's talk, if that just is a crazy burden and you're missing patients because you've got it in the wrong place, I think, I know that we're a little ways apart, but I don't think we're as far as UAB and Columbia are clinic to the delivery hospital. So, we can talk about that. We're expecting you guys to buy the Vacutainer tubes and all the blood drawing supplies and aliquots, et cetera. We're sending you the labels. So you'll have those. And they're all detailed exactly what to order in the MOO as well. So, so hopefully we'll get you your IRBs going and we can get going on all this.
And we'll also send the microbiome kits. They're going to be the swab collections. We have all the swabs already ordered, and we'll send that as well.
Yeah, I put a detailed supply list of what we ordered and what we send you in the MOO. So if you want to do some ordering, Karen likes to keep all the Fisher Scientific numbers and stuff to make it easier. Thank you, Karen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.